Hello everybody, Mr. Brown's here, back again with Chapter 4 of The Snail Patrol by Krista Lacey. It was nearly 8 o'clock. Darren was ready. He crept downstairs one step at a time. Mum and Dad were watching a game show on the telly. Darren tiptoed past the front room door and was almost clean away when his mum's voice said, "Where are you going, Darren?" Darren clinked to a halt and gritted his teeth. How did his mum do that? Could all parents see through walls? Perhaps when you grew up you got eyes in the back of your head after all. I'm doing a nature study, Mum, in Mr. Macduff's garden. At this time of night? That was a tricky one. Darren thought hard. Some animals only come out at night. Don't you bring any mice home, she said. Or bats, said his dad. Or hedgehogs, said his mother. Or moles, said his dad. Or girlfriends, teased his mother. There was a pause. Darren heard his father laugh. Girlfriends? At his age. He's got his eye on that Sharon Bunker, said his mother. I flip him well haven't, Darren shouted. He tightened his fists and the jam jars clinked. What was that noise? Mrs. Winterburn said. I'm going, announced Darren, opening the door. Darren, said his mother. Darren, what are you up to? Darren Winterburn, come back here. But Darren was already at George Macduff's door. Mr. Macduff looked anxious to see him. Come in, boy, come in, he said in a whisper, and ushered Darren through to the back of the house. He put a finger to his lips as he slid back the huge glass patio door. The soft smell of wet earth filled the air. Can you hear it? George whispered, cocking an ear towards the garden. What? Whispered Darren. He couldn't hear a thing. That scrunching, growled George. That munching. That lunching. That cabbage crunching noise, that's them, boy. They're out there. Snails. Lots of them. Oh, it makes me so mad, thought Darren, completely bonkers. Don't worry, he said, stepping into the rain. The Snail Patrol is at your service. Look, I've brought this. He showed George the secret can of lager. Oh, exclaimed George, very generous of you, laddie. And he whipped the lager from Darren's grasp, and before Darren could say that the beer was really a trap for the snails, George was guzzling it straight from the can. Didn't matter. The lager wasn't needed. The spinach trap had worked a treat. When Darren shone the torch into Mr. Macduff's garden, at least 10 snails were slithering around the bait. The first thing Darren did was take out his notepad. He had planned this bit carefully back in his room. If he kept a running tally of the snails as he caught them, it would be quicker and easier at the end of the night to work out exactly how much he was owed. He crouched beside the posse of spinach-chewing snails. 2 of these were cabbage busters for sure. He licked his pencil and jotted down the numbers. Tiny Wallers, 10p, 2. Puppy Dog's Tails, 20p, 1. Cream Toppers, 30p, 5. Catherine Wheels, 40p, 1. Cabbage Busters, 50p, 2. 11 snails in all. Darren did a swift calculation. £3.30. He'd already earned himself £3.30. He picked up the tiniest tiny Waller and sat it sweetly in the palm of his hand. The tiny Waller looked confused. It had a quick peek round for non-existent spinach and slowly curled itself back into its shell. Night-night, said Darren with a little wave, and rolled the baby snail gently into the jar. It was the same story all over the garden. Snails everywhere, slithering round plant pots, crawling through the trellis, hiding under benches, creeping up the cold frame. Darren even found a Waller on a gnome's fishing rod and a nice cream topper in the outside loo. The cabbage patch was absolutely heaving with snails. Darren spent ages turning up the leaves and plucking the sticky little predators off. But the best place for big snails was George's dustbin. It was one of those corrugated metal kind. It smelt horribly of fish and cauliflower and curry, But the snails didn't seem to mind, and neither did the woodlice. When Darren moved the bin to unplop a Catherine wheel from the lid, the paving slabs were suddenly alive. Woodlice stampede! Darren jumped back and let go of his jar. It broke on the back of a little stone tortoise, and 4 snails rolled into the compost heap. Darren thought about leaving them to it, but duty was duty. We didn't want any complaints from George. So he carefully put the broken glass into the dustbin, took a deep breath, and shoved his hand into the compost. It was just as well he did. He found 6 snails, not 4, and one was the biggest cabbage buster he had ever seen. Darren sent a jubilant howl into the night. The snail patrol had done its job. And that's the end of chapter 4, and we'll read you some more soon. Take care. Bye-bye now.